for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. Save your family without sacrificing your business. One of his advocacy, no other than Mr. Joe Pomeroy.
Hey, thanks. I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk to your audience, and excited to offer a completely different perspective on a book that people may have read, but I almost guarantee they've never thought of it in the way that we're going to talk about today.
Definitely, and Mr. Joe Pomeroy, welcome to Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Absolutely. So I've been married for coming up on 15 years. I've got 3 kids. I started out in the business world, having a lot of success at the expense of my family. I have a 4-year degree in marketing, a 2-year master's in business administration. Spent tons of money on workshops and seminars and all these things to learn business. And so business kind of came naturally, but then family didn't. And we wonder why family doesn't come naturally. Well, I love books, love reading, love learning about things, right? But how often or how much time did I put into reading about marriage and reading about communication and within a marriage? And it was just totally different aspect from business. So really had to learn to make that adjustment. And since doing that, I've been coaching. I've continued doing business, been doing a lot of things to help other entrepreneurs and other business-minded people to be able to really bless and lift their families without sacrificing their business goals.
Mr. Joe, I want that success too. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about the standard of success, how a family first approach maximize your business impact. And how does or what does a family first approach mean to you when building a successful business?
Yeah, it's a family first approach is really about when you're designing what you're going to do, when you're planning out your week, when you're creating your schedule, when you're considering your yearly goals, your 5-year goals, your 10-year goals, really emphasizing the impact of a family and um, planning that what you want to do with your family first, and then fitting in the business elements and the business aspects around that. So that is a family first approach. Is how do I want my impact to influence my family? Focusing on that, mapping that out, and then fitting in the business elements around that.
Mr. Joe, can you tell us about your podcast, Forward with Joe? What is all about?
Yeah, so on Forward with Joe, it's a mix of interviews and sessions with just me talking about really what other entrepreneurs have experienced in their journey and trying to figure out a balance between work and family, and is balance even possible? And if not, what is the true focus to take? And just some amazing insights, hearing people's journeys and what it is that they're doing to help entrepreneurs now to integrate their business and their family for greater success.
Congratulations, and hoping for more and more empowering episodes of your podcast. Can you share a personal story of how prioritizing family has positively impacted to your business?
Absolutely. So it's really easy to get caught up in quarterly goals. And I was super focused on a product launch that I was doing. And as I'd gotten very focused in this product launch and getting this new thing out, I'd left behind the different tools that I'd learned and the tools that I was teaching. I think that's something that can be dangerous for some of us, quote unquote, experts or gurus. We have an area of expertise, but that doesn't always mean that we're abiding by that or living by that. And as I was preparing for this product launch, I realized I was missing out on family dinners. I was telling my kids, hey, not right now. I need a little bit more time. And then a lot of time would go by. And I found myself more and more and more overwhelmed with what I was doing for this product launch. Uh, when I realized the mistakes that I was making and the tools that I had left behind, I took a breath, I paused, I recentered myself, I started implementing the tools that I teach about prioritizing family, about putting family first. And now, when I'm showing up for dinner, when I'm participating in my kids' bedtime routine, when I'm playing games with my kids, reading books with them, going for walks as a family, it seems like that, if I'm already overwhelmed and I don't have enough time, it seems like that would have just given me less time. But really, what it did, it helped me to be better focused, and it helped my subconscious mind to be able to process the things that I actually needed to do for the product launch. And it became easier. And so the time that I did spend working was better focused, was easier to implement, and had a really successful launch.
Mr. Joe, how do you believe a family first approach can enhance rather than hinder business success?
It's really, there's a book called by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And in there, he talks about what really drives great businesses to be great. That, Apple, he gives an example with Apple about how, if you start on the outside, they manufacture electronics, and then you move in a little bit, and they work to make people's lives easier, and then you move in a little bit, and then you really get to that core why of what drives them, this creative, innovative love for their consumers and desire to help them excel, and that's what drives them. And so it's the same idea. If you understand the true why of your life in general, then you can be better focused on the things you're wanting to accomplish in business. And so having that, your why centered around your family, things that you hold in highest value, assuming you do hold your family in highest value. But when you have things centered around that, it creates the opportunity to stay focused on your core, and it makes the other things easier. If I'm super focused on what I want to achieve with my family, I know why I want to achieve it for those connections, those relationships, it becomes easier to post stuff on social media because I don't care what other people think. I'm going to be authentic to myself. I'm not going to worry what other people think, what other people say, because I'm doing this for my family. If I truly understand the goals and what I'm wanting to achieve for my family, then if I need to work for a little bit after I put my kids to bed, I can do that. I can do that instead of binging on Netflix or something like that because I know the true the true element of what's driving me. And you can really only have that when you're centering yourself around something that's bigger and more important than yourself, such as your family.
Beautifully, beautifully articulated, Mr. Joe. Very well said and empowering. Yes, people, you should know what is your why and don't care of what people say about you. And what are the key benefits of integrating family values into business strategy?
Yeah. So in business, I mean, in the '90s especially, there's another great book by Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And it really sparked this movement within businesses that businesses, they needed to know their mission statement, they needed to know their values, they needed to know, why are they serving these people. And so there's these great fundamental elements and business principles that never got translated to families and what we're doing within families. And then the problem became is that people would show up to business and they would say that they would follow these particular values within the business, but it often was only implemented when it was convenient. So having stating some kind of value and not implementing consistently across your business is the same as an individual stating they have particular values and not implementing it across their life. Those values, they actually become guardrails. Think of them as a set of standard, a set of guardrails that are going to keep you on your path to this future that you desire, this vision that you've created. And when you center those values around things, if you center what is most important around, uh, uh, if you center the things you're going to do, the key elements that drive you and keep you who you are, those largest elements around what's most important, it helps to keep you on track. And so you establish these values within your home. For example, one of the values that my family has is to be good stewards. And what that means at home is living without debt. It means being responsible of our bodies, of our finances, the effort that my wife and I put into raising our kids. And then when it comes to business, being a good steward means that I only participate in things that I believe will benefit and bless the lives of those with whom I encounter. And so when we behave that way and create those opportunities at home, and they're fundamental to who we are, they then expand across everything in which we engage: our business, our interactions, our friends, our neighbors, any church or faith that we might be associated with. And it really becomes a core element of who we are. And then it's about who am I being, and not just what am I doing.
How does prioritizing family influence decision making in high stakes business situations?
Yeah, that's sometimes where I think people can go, "Oh, well, family doesn't have anything to do with high stake business decisions. If we're going to merge a company, if we're going to do this, if we're going to do that." But again, it goes back to that core element of, am I being my true self across the entirety of my life? There's a phrase that you've probably heard said before, Daniel, about how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yes.
And what that's looking to imply is, are we consistent in who we are? There's nothing more high stake than family. Look at all the attacks that are taking place on family, that are taking place trying to divide couples, trying to divide parents from children. If It's not hard to say that there's some big entity, be it government, be it different groups or organizations, that want the family divided, because then the family's easier to control. So, what could be more high stake than that? And if you are firm and solid in fighting for your family and recognizing how high those stakes are, then everything else becomes easier and more manageable. The merger of a business, the acquisition of a company, the scaling and bringing on new employees or bigger clients, all of those things gain perspective when you understand that the highest stake you're playing for is your family, because eventually you'll move on. Eventually, the one thing we none of us can escape is death. That's going to come. And when you pass on, maybe your business lives on, but absolutely your family continues on, your children and their children, and so on. And so it's really, there's no greater stake than fighting for your family.
Definitely, people think for the legacy for your family. What are the common misconceptions about prioritizing family in the context of business success?
Yeah, I think one common misconception is something that we talked about a little bit earlier, where when I was doing that product launch, and we think, oh, well, it's just for a little while, right? That's such a dangerous trap. It's just for a little while. It's just for a season. I do believe that life operates in seasons, and that we may need to put more time or more emphasis on business versus family at some point, but it should still keep family as the priority. And so, a really common misconception is that family can wait. I need to succeed in my business now. And I actually recently had a conversation with a woman who has built a very successful real estate business. And she's doing amazing things in her real estate business. And she was working really hard. She had two young kids. She thought, they're not going to remember whether I'm home right now or not. They're too little. They're not going to remember. I'm just going to grind as hard as I can. And then a few years from now, when they're older and they can remember more, then I'll have time for them. Well, what she wasn't expecting was to lose one of her children. Unfortunately, one of her children passed away. Um, and now all those opportunities that she had dreamed of in the future were no longer available to her. So that's one misconception that comes about prioritizing families. We convince ourselves that we'll have more time. Another misconception is, well, I work so hard in my business, I'm doing it for my family. And if you're doing something for your family, then that ought to mean that your family is aware of it, that they're participants mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically in what's going on. So, have you had, and this is a quick thing you can use as a check in if you're an entrepreneur, have you had a conversation with your family about your goals, about why you're working so hard, about the amount of time that you're spending being involved in your business? How do they actually feel about it? What do they actually need? And how can you bring all of that together so that when you do show up to work and when you do go to work, now because you've prioritized your family, you really are doing that for them. And you don't have to convince yourself, and you don't have to battle the guilt or the shame or whatever comes in and says, really? Really, Daniel? Are you really doing this for your family? No, you're actually doing it for them because they're on board with you. And so now you're moving together. And now we're able to eliminate this whole idea of the solopreneur. Right? We get obsessed with the solopreneur. I'm doing it all myself. I've got my microphone and I'm doing it all myself and I'm going for it. But you don't have to. Just because you can doesn't mean you need to or that it's the best path. So why not do it with those that will love and support and encourage? And maybe you say, well, that's great, Joe, but I don't have a spouse. I don't have kids that love and support and encourage right now. And you know what? Unfortunately, that happens. And a lot of times it's our own fault that that happens. And there's things that we can do. So, I mean, if listeners don't take away anything else, I hope that they take away the idea that wherever you're at with your family, there is hope, there is a path forward. And that as you follow that, you can see incredible things, both in your relationships within your family and also within your business.
Mr. Joe, again, empowering answer. And as an family advocate, what are your short term and long term goals?
Oh, I love that. So I was actually just having a conversation with my wife about that. Um, my short term and long term goals, they apply equally both to my kids and my wife, as
Yes.
well as to those that I'm allowed to impact. And the short-term goals are to be present in developing and strengthening relationships. And that's a goal that I can apply to anybody with whom I interact. So I can make sure it's a goal with my children. And what am I doing today? What am I doing this week? How am I going to spend time with them to develop those relationships? Am I spending one-on-one time with my kids? Am I laughing with them? Am I engaging with them? When they come and knock on my door, I'm lucky enough to work from home. So when they come and knock on my door and want some attention, what can I do to let them know that they're valued, important, even if I'm on an amazing podcast and doing those things. Same with my wife. It's same with my clients. It's same with my time here with you, Daniel, that I can be fully present with you and anybody else that's participating in this, to be fully present, engaged. It doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect in what I say. I mean, goodness, I've already stumbled a ton of times over my words or hesitated, but it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm here with you and we're present and I'm here to serve. So that's a short-term goal, is to be fully present with those whom I'm blessed to interact. The long-term goal is to be able to teach others to be fully present with those with whom they interact. And if we can do this beginning in our own homes, then that influence expands. It expands into our communities, our nations, society as a whole, and we find better alignment in with peace and joy and hope and harmony and all these things that we say we want,
Yes.
sometimes struggle to put in the effort.
Better communities. People, indeed. And good luck to your goals. Mr. Joe, how about being a podcast host? What are your short term and long term goals?
Podcast host. Um, I just love getting messages out. I love having conversations. I love being able to connect with people. Um, like we never would have met without podcasting. And
Yes,
so I love that. And I love being able to do that as a podcast host. So really just being able to get quality guests that can serve my audience and be able to put that material out there for uh, the one, the one individual that needs it, whether it's 1 or 1 million, it's, am I having an impact on that one?
definitely. And again, good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success, Mr. Joe. And what is your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you, a podcast host and a family advocacy?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the book that I was going to that I want to recommend, and maybe we'll get to this a little bit later, but it's called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Now, this is a book about budgeting, but the main thing that he talks about with Profit First, his main principle, is that the the issue that business owners do is they take 100% of their revenue and they start dividing it out. Here's, I'm sending this to expenses. I'm sending this to, I need to pay for this course, or I need to pay for my coaching, or I need to do all these things. And then with whatever's left over, hopefully they have enough for profit. And what he says instead is to take that profit first, even if it's just 1%. Because if I take 1%, then I'll still be able to figure out how to do the rest of it with the remaining 99. And if you're wanting to be, whether it's a podcast host or a family advocate, whatever you're wanting to be for that, you need to be willing to put first things first. Mike Michalowicz talks about that if you can run a business on $10,000 worth of revenue a month, so 10,000 a month in revenue, you're running your business. If you take 1%, that's $100, right? You surely can run a business on 9,900. So whatever you're wanting to do, if you're wanting to start a podcast, if you're wanting to be a family advocate, by prioritizing your family and putting them first, it follows the same principle. By making sure you prioritize your family first, you'll be able to find the time that you need to achieve your other goals. And that's really where it all begins, because then you can move forward as a podcast host, as a family advocate, without feeling like you're leaving something important behind.
Thank you for that advice, Mr. Joe. I hope our listeners or viewers will follow and for sure they will empower. And aside from that book that you recommend, do you have another book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, there's a lot. When I was thinking about this, because I was trying to think of books that maybe are a little bit different that haven't been recommended yet, but that's hard because you do such good work for your audience, and you're always on your show, you're always providing value and bringing people on, and so I may not be recommending any new books because I know how well you serve your audience, but I wanted to be able to think of a few that are business focused that might be familiar to our entrepreneurs, but that you can actually take a family first focus on. So the first one is Profit First, right? It centers around budgeting, and but here's how we can apply those principles. Another one is called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. In Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, he's an FBI negotiator. He did really high stake things. And one of the things that stood out to me is he says, when you're negotiating for somebody's life, compromise doesn't work. You don't say, okay, well, you keep their right arm, but we get the rest of them. Like, how do you compromise when you're negotiating for somebody's life? And we talked earlier, Daniel, about high stakes, right?
Yes.
So, with the high stakes of family, what is it if you're trying to figure out business and work and you're trying to figure out family? If you're trying to create some kind of compromise, and you'll see this all the time on X, on other platforms, where people come out and they say there's no such thing as work-life balance, or balance only means that you're average at several things and not excelling at one thing. That's only if you're making compromises. So Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, really opened my eyes to the idea that you absolutely can have everything without making compromises. You can be your best version as an entrepreneur, and your best version as a parent and spouse. You can be your best version as a podcast host and your best version in health and advocacy for others. There's so many things that you can do when you choose, when you decide what you want, you decide to prioritize what matters most first, and you are committed to never splitting the difference. So that's another book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
You are the number three recommended that book, Mr. Joe, and thank you for that recommendations. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and of course my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in each third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in each fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in each first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Joe, for listeners or viewers of Book 101 Review, what's one actionable step they can take to adopt a family first approach to enhance their business impact?
Absolutely. So, one actionable step, go sit down and have a conversation with your family. Take whatever goals you have about your business, what it is you think you want to do in your business, and open up that conversation with your family. And do it by invitation, not by demand. It's hey, I would like to share my business goals with you and get your impact and feedback so we can create better goals together. Is there a time today that we could take 5 to 10 minutes to do that? You're inviting, it's specific, you've set a time limit on it, and it sets the stage for a great conversation.
Mr. Joe Pomeroy, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, hoping for more and more and more success to your advocacy. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast, your projects, or anything that you are doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a free gift for your listeners. They can go to forwardwithjoe.com/book101. Forwardwithjoe.com/book101. They'll be able to get access to free resources there that can support the conversation that we've had and help them to take those next steps in placing their family first.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Joe Pomeroy because, as I said, if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come, more and more empowering business to come, and for sure, more and more empowering, wow, coaching to come for sure. So, Mr. Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.